up, guys? TLO here for the Parley alongside 15-year NBA veteran and former professional boxer, Mr. Kendall Gill himself. What's up, Kendall? How you doing, man?
What's up, TLO?
It's been a minute, dog.
Yeah, it has been a minute. Yeah, we can't have these lapses that we've had this year because basketball season, kids. All that gets in the way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the great thing is we just associated. You just a great transition. We just partnered up with AB Boxing News. They are a boxing platform from New York as well, and we're going to be sharing content and working together with covering boxing in the country and around the world as well. And so, shout out to AB Boxing News as well. Tony and Tony, they all have the name Tony, by the way. It's kind of weird. So I gotta be called TLO for real.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But shout out to you guys. Great content you guys are putting out there. Keep it up, and we'll be joining you in progress in the middle of the year as we go to some fights and cover the boxing world. So can't wait for that to happen. Don't forget the Parley is sponsored by 60/40 Club. If you want to know Kendall Gill's workout regimen, you gotta ask him.
That's right.
I seen you out there.
Yeah, I did it this morning, man.
He did it this morning.
I'm on 24, so I'm moving up the ladder.
You got to check out what it is. Check out what the dynamic is in regards to the workout and his regimens. He will take care of you. 60/40 by Kendall Gill. Right. Parley, man, we're back in action. We are going to be covering some Chicago boxing. A lot of happening with Bobby Hitts' promotion as well as our unanimous management for the boxers that we do cover. They have fights coming up. They're all doing a great job. And Trinidad Garcia doing a great job as their manager and trainer. Shout out to Lalo as well, who was in the mix with Olivia Curry, Ronnie Halamo, Frezzo, who won his top rank debut a couple of weeks ago, and of course Action Jackson as well. He is undefeated and doing his thing as well. So shout out to you guys. Can't wait to talk to you guys soon on the Parley. But we have a special guest not in studio, but via Zoom, all the way on the East Coast, Mr. Marko Boxing. He is a former professional boxer, is an amazing content creator when it comes to boxing, and also the man is poetic. He's a poetic guy, man. He's a poetic guy. Marko, welcome into the show, man.
Some might say I have bars. That's what the young kids say, right? Bars?
Right.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. A pleasure and honor to have you on the Parley, man. So we're gonna get right to it. We had you on the show previously before talking about a couple things, but I know there's one topic that you did want to discuss with us, and I did want to talk to you about before we get into the main current events, right? And it's Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson had his match with Jake Paul back in November. We know how that all went down. You've met Mike, and you've had some history. But first, we wanted to get from you, how did you feel about the match itself and Mike in general at age 50 in the ring?
58, right?
Almost 60. Yeah, wow.
Almost 60. Yeah. Well, we kind of got pump faked, right? Because we saw one Mike against Roy Jones only but 4 years earlier. And then we get this dude who did a little tap dance on his way to the ring because his knee, I thought maybe he played with Kendall because his knee was blown out. He might have played 20 seasons with you, Kendall. His knees were blown out. Yeah. So I think just off Jump Street, his knees were not there. I think he probably had an injury because he looked nothing like against the dude who fought Roy. And it was only 4 years prior. Can somebody get old in 4 years? Maybe, but so you need your legs in boxing. You don't have your legs, you got nothing. And we saw it. I actually believe that Jake Paul held back on him. I think Jake Paul could have took him out, and he didn't. I know a lot of people think Tyson held back. There's these videos of him about to throw a right hand and pull him back. I just think that's as simple as he was going to throw it. He saw that Jake was moving, so he decided not to. But yeah, so it was a handicap match, basically. He was handicapped.
No, I agree with you. When I saw Marko walk out during the walkout, and he had the knee brace on, he was actually during his walkout, he was somewhat limping, So I knew as soon as that happened, I was like, man, this is not going to end up good for Mike. Even if he doesn't get Jake Paul in the first round, then this fight is not going to be what we thought it was going to be, because I totally expected the Mike Tyson that showed up for Roy Jones to be in the ring with Jake Paul. That's why I was like, he's going to knock Jake Paul out. If that guy had shown up, he would have knocked Jake Paul out. I think that's probably a reason why Jake Paul took this fight, because they knew something that obviously the rest of the public did not know. And also, Mike Tyson almost died last June. You know, we didn't realize that Mike was in the hospital and things like this, stuff that I wasn't privy to before I made my prediction. You know, and it's just unfortunate. And I agree with you. I think that Jake Paul carried Mike Tyson after the first round. Yeah. Can you imagine what it would be like if Jake Paul knocks out Mike Tyson? He would have everybody and their mama lining up to vindicate Mike Tyson, to fight him.
And it would make him a bad guy. Like, he likes being the bad guy, but I don't think he wants to be the bad guy at that level.
Right.
So he took his foot off the gas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had people texting me and calling me that I hadn't talked to in years, who I didn't even know like boxing, like ask me, "Oh, you seen this fight? What do you think?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, it hits so many people.
Yeah.
Because Mike is an icon. That's who we grew up with. You know, we grew up watching Mike knock people out, and unfortunately, you know, he had the rape case against him, and you know, we watched him come from the bottom back to the top, back to being a heavyweight champion. And you know, America loves a comeback.
You know, I was telling you earlier, I believe prime Mike Tyson, which only prime lasted, I want to say, from turning pro 85 to about 1989. I did a video recently about the first fight where we saw the chink in his armor, which was against Frank Bruno. Yeah, he beat Frank, but he was getting tapped up like a maple tree. Yeah. So I think that's when we first saw him leaving Kevin Rooney, throwing one punch at a time, not moving his head at all, used to the intimidation tactics, basically being 80% of the victory.
Right.
So Tyson peaked so early. That Tyson, though, the one who fought Michael Spinks, I think could beat anybody in history. But as a whole career, and this pains me to say this because I'm from New York too, I think Tyson's career is overrated. I mean, he never beat any superstar after Michael Spinks. He lost to all of them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what Teddy Adler said too. You know, anybody that came along that really had the same talent level or skill level as Mike after that, after the fight that you just mentioned, the Spinks fight, he never won that fight. You look at Evander Holyfield, lost both fights to Evander Holyfield. You look at Lennox Lewis, lost that fight as well. So as much as we love Mike Tyson, you're absolutely right about his career.
Full energy. So he's one of the only superstars in boxing that were able to ascend to biblical proportion stardom without really doing much outside the ring. Now, I mean early Mike, the quiet, soft-spoken. But it was just his energy. It was what he did in the ring. It was that scowl when he walked. You know, it was him, Sonny Liston, Marvin Hagler. I can't really, George Foreman. Those are the only four that were superstars, but weren't flapping their gums like Ali or like Floyd, that didn't have an outside, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, the charisma outside the ring.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, Mike Tyson in round 3, right away looks at Jake Paul, starts biting his glove like he's biting into a steak sirloin, juicy. I tried, bro. I couldn't do it.
You tried your Marko imitation?
That was supposed to be you, bro.
Yeah, you tried his Marko imitation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. No. Funny sidebar, I was watching part of the Roy Jones fight, and he was biting his glove in that fight.
Yeah,
he's just got this thing with biting.
I've never seen that before. I've never seen him bite his gloves.
Me neither. That was something new to me for some reason. Like I was trying to go back and remember. I don't remember him biting his glove during.
People are trying to say, well, that was him being frustrated because he can't let off on Jake because the fight staged. And I'm like, he did that with Roy too. People didn't know. He didn't do it as much, but I saw a couple clear instances of him biting, you know, the thumb part of the glove.
Well, before we get to other boxing stuff, can you attest to Jake approaching him and saying, "Hey, man, I'm gonna give you $20 million. Let's go 8 rounds. You know, just hang in there and let's just have some fun."
You're talking about the fight being fixed.
Yeah.
I think it was fixed, but not in the traditional way. I think they both were probably like, look, it's like Kendall, you sparred. I don't know if you sparred either, TLO, but you sparred. I believe it was almost sparring rules. Let's go. If it gets too crazy though, you know, sparring, usually back off if somebody's hurt. That's like really the only difference in sparring.
Right.
I believe maybe they had that going on. Like, look, let's go. We'll throw some hard shots, do what we could do. But if anybody's actually hurt, let's take our foot off the gas. So is that an alternate way to fix a fight? I don't know. It depends on your definition of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't going to work out well for Jake Paul, as you just mentioned, if he had hurt Mike. It just wasn't, you know. As a matter of fact, I think Andre Ward was lining up to fight Jake Paul had he really hurt Mike Tyson. I mean, I've seen interviews where Andre Ward was like, "Yeah, I was ready to get in the ring and challenge Jake Paul if Mike Tyson had been hurt, you know." And
But Jake would never in a billion years fight Andre Ward.
I know, but I would love to see it.
That'd be stupid.
I would love to see it.
That's what that would be.
No, he wouldn't do that. So I mean, you know, he's so many people want to fight him, and you know, I mean, shit, Daniel Dubois, Better BF, like it's so many people calling him out because you know, like we talked about, people want low risk, high reward. That's what Jake offers any experienced professional.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. That was with Jake and his future endeavors. Of course, he is a big staple in boxing now. You know, he still has MVP promotions. He's got Serrano going for the third fight with Katie Taylor, and you know he's invested in the boxing community. So that's always nice to see. We just hope to see maybe something at some point. You know, some real boxers fighting Jake. So we'll see what happens, man. This past week we had a very interesting. I don't think I've seen this in a long time, but 3 major stars in boxing. On the same press row, man, the same press conference, but fighting different fighters, of course. Of course, I'm talking about Ryan Garcia as he fights coming up in, I think, what was May 2nd. Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero, right, on that card. Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, and, of course, Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza. We could start first with the Ryan Garcia fight, Marko and Rolly. I mean, I don't think there's too much analysis that needs to be said in this particular fight other than we thought the build-up was going to be more intense between them. But how do you feel about Ryan's approach to this fight as he's almost skipping over Rolly and just talking about Devin during the press conference?
Well, I think Ryan's going to clip Rolly like he's sitting in a barber's chair. I mean, he's going to clip him up nice. You know, I don't see Rolly being able to stop that explosive left hook. You know, Ryan's very explosive. Rolly lacks the fast twitch reactions. I think Rolly also, his IQ is not very high, not outside the ring, but you know, ring IQ. I think Ryan goes through him easy. You know, they've sparred twice. I actually broke down both videos on my YouTube channel. You see me break down their sparring. One sparring, Rolly actually got the better of him, was roughing him up, you know, was nailing him, was you know, pushing him, throwing his forearm in his face, you know. But yeah, I think Ryan's just too fast for Rolly. And Rolly's confidence now has been shattered from 2 basically back-to-back butt whoopings.
Yeah.
Or no, not back-to-back, but 2 butt whoopings. And Barroso beat him, even though they stopped that fight, which is what the worst stoppage I think I've ever seen.
That was one of the worst stoppages in history.
And how are you going to stop the dude who's throwing the punches?
Right, exactly.
He grabbed the dude throwing punches. So no more. It's like, wait, what? And then obviously the Pitbull Cruz fight. So yeah, I think that one's a wash.
And Gervonta, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
What about Gervonta?
I'm saying Gervonta just taking his soul after that counterpunch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But that's, you know, I was at that fight, actually.
And honestly, it's a good name on Ryan Garcia's resume. He goes in, he wins the fight. This sets everything up for his next fight. He's going to look good in this fight. I think I'm in total agreement with you, Marko. I think he clips him with a left hook, a quick one, and gets Rolly out of there. But here's the thing. Gervonta Davis, they asked him who is the hardest puncher he's ever been with. He said Rolly. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be Pitbull Cruz. But he said if Rolly catches you right, then he can get you out of there. That's the one thing that he has going for him in this fight. That's the one thing that I'm interested in. I think that Ryan is going to go in and knock Rolly out. But there's always that, and you know, it's cliche, he always has a puncher's chance. I think that's what Rolly has. If he catches Ryan right, you never know.
You never know. That's true. Yeah.
The other fight on that card, obviously, is Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza. Those two have been going at it, jabbing, verbal exchange of words, and you know, just the buildup is there, right? And so I ask you, Marko, are you afraid for Teofimo at all in a fight like this, where Barboza is looking like I'm about to go through you?
I mean, I don't, all that pre-fight talk and stare downs doesn't mean anything, but I am a little concerned because Barbosa is a good boxer. He doesn't have much power, but he'll stay on the outside. He might be able to frustrate T.O., especially if T.O. goes back to how he was against Kambosos, where he's getting impatient for the knockout, going forward. T.O. has to box this guy. If he tries to bang with him, it might be a problem. I still got Tia winning, but that's the one fight that I think has the biggest chance of the A side losing, even though I don't think the A side will lose.
No, I agree with you on that. But here's the thing, T.O., I love his talent. I love what he brings to the ring. I mean, he's brash outside of the ring as well. I just want to see him fight more. I'm tired of seeing him fight just once every 2.5 years. Get active because there's so many fights out there for him. He can fight Garcia, he can fight Haney, he can fight Shakur, he can fight Tank. Let's get these fights that we used to see back in the Sugar Ray Leonard era, the Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, and Thomas Hearns, when the four kings fought each other. That's what I think boxing is missing right now, and T.O. can be a part of that. All these guys can make a lot of money fighting each other. They just need to get it going, man.
He's the Ring Magazine champion, right? Is that
Yeah,
what he was talking about on the first conference?
Yeah,
Hey, man, Ring Magazine might be the only belt that matters soon. We'll see.
True.
Very true. And of course, the one I'm really interested in, Marco, is Devin Haney. And his first fight back after Ryan Garcia fighting Jose Ramirez. I'm curious to see how mentally he looks in the ring in a professional fight, right? We already know what happened with Ryan. That can take a toll on people. We've seen people like Ricky Hatton who admitted that after his fight with Floyd, he was depressed. Cotto, same thing with Margarito. Tito as well has admitted it, and I'm going the Puerto Rican route, obviously being Puerto Rican and following my Puerto Rican boxers. But how do you think Devin Haney is mentally? Will he be able to go through this fight and be able to just erase what happened with Ryan?
I don't know. You never know how it's going to affect somebody, but I do think on paper, Devin should box this dude's socks off. This dude isn't fast. It doesn't hit hard. He has I believe a 40 or 50% knockout ratio, or maybe 60 tops, but he's not fast in his hands or his feet. The one thing he has is he's Devin's height. So that's because Devin's usually traditionally up to this point been taller than everybody's fought.
Right.
But I don't see Devin. This guy, I think there's a perfect opponent for Devin. And the dude has, Josh Taylor gave him a nice, thorough, Costco-sized can of whoop ass opened up on him. So, yeah, I think he'll beat him easy. But you're right, there is a chance that mentally, we can call that and I hate saying this because he's my favorite fighter of all time, but the Roy Jones syndrome or the Wilder syndrome. When you get knocked out, you just change sometimes completely mentally. Like what's his face? Nick Anderson. Remember he missed those couple free throws and then he went from 90% or whatever to shooting 50% career free throws. Was it Nick Anderson? Yeah, it was Nick Anderson.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the final. So I always use that as like sometimes you could be a traumatic event can happen and you get PTSD, you just never recover. And the same thing in boxing.
With this presser that we saw, right, and we'll go over to a higher weight division in a second, but do you feel like boxing's evolving, with fights like this, with having stars in a line and one card? We all know what Turkey's doing, with the big stars, right, and making fights happen. But do you feel like the traditional HBO and Showtime stuff that we would see and cards itself is just evolving because something like this? Because, again, I haven't seen 3 stars on a presser like that in a while. Can't even remember last time I saw that.
I mean, the word evolving, it's changing. Yeah, I mean, it's changing, but it's only changing because you have Turkey Al-Sheikh involved. I get worried because if he leaves, let's say he gets bored or, people don't realize he's the head of the Saudi Entertainment Commission or Association for Saudi Arabia. He's not I don't know if you know this or not, but he's not a politician. He's not a government official there. He just runs that So he probably has a board of people he reports to. Everything has to be funded. It has to be approved. Let's say he stops giving a shit about boxing. He decides to put the fund somewhere else. Let's say he gets fired. Are we going to go into a boxing recession? Now dudes are like, no, I want my 100 million I've been getting every fight. What happens? That's the one thing I'm worried about. But yeah, it's getting better and better. And I was telling Kendall earlier, I really like the idea of a league. Depending how it's run, obviously.
Yeah.
But I really like it because boxing has been, if you want to talk about the Gervonta Davis fight next, I can transition into what I'm saying now. But boxing has been the Wild West. People don't even realize that there's no rules in boxing, no official rules. And I'll explain if you want me to, but there are no official rules.
Yep.
They're none. They're none. And people don't know this. And I've known it for a while, but I did a lot of research into, especially after what happened with Tank, to look into things and talk to people. And yeah, there's no rules. So,
well, I mean, there's just commissions in state by state, so things vary. And
there is something called the Association of Boxing Commissions, ABC. I don't know if you ever hear those. You ever hear of them?
Yeah.
Either of you guys?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. They are a not-for-profit organization that has a guideline, the word guideline, of rules for combat sports. Now, if you go to each state, because each state is, you're right, they're the ones who can ultimately decide who wins, who loses, what gets overturned. If you go to their website and you look up boxing rules, they follow this ABC rules. But the ABC rules are, first off, very, very loose. For example, there's nothing in the rules about taking a knee voluntarily. It just doesn't exist in those rules. They do not address it at all. But they're guidelines. They're recommended rules that are what's the word when you can take something or you don't have to take something. It's what's that word? It's escaping me right now. Whatever. Recommended. So that's the rules we deal with. The belts, WBC, let's say you're fighting for that belt. You go to their website and you click on them, you say, what are your rules? They also direct you to this ABC rules, which are guidelines. They're suggested. They're not even required. That's why when it comes down to boxing, people don't realize the ref can do whatever he wants. Whatever he wants. People say, well, you got up on the ring apron. He should have been disqualified. It says that getting up on the ring apron, a manager or a trainer, is grounds for, not automatic 1000%, grounds for a possible disqualification based on what? The referee's discretion. So the referee could do whatever the hell he wants.
So there's no getting in trouble, like Gervonta and Roach a couple weeks ago.
Look, technically, we all know that taking a knee is the bat signal for an 8 count. That's throwing up the bat signal. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But legally, nothing says that. Nothing. It says the ref, all that's outlined in rules is what a knockdown is, which means basically any part of your body besides your feet hitting the canvas is a knockdown.
So basically, the review. Yeah, from a punch. So basically, the review they did a couple weeks or a week ago, and the explanation was a formality. Basically, is what they did.
Well, no, they did a review, but I knew, because look at it this way: if they would have overturned this wasn't even that crazy of a call. Like, yeah, it should have been a knockdown, but really, when you look back at the fight, Tank wasn't hurt. I think he was just freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have, it wasn't if it was a real knockdown, like if homeboy hit him and he fell or whatever, and then that was taken away, that would be outrageous. Now Tank made it was an amateur move. It was a weird move. It was kind of like, but it wasn't because of anything Roach did, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think, like, it should be a knockdown. Don't get me wrong. If it was me, I even had a couple referees on my show. Arthur McCanty, who's like a famous ref. They all said, yeah, I would have counted for sure. But, when you want to signal for the referee, you either hold and then you go, yo, ref, something in my eye, call a timeout. Or you get your distance from the dude and say, yo, call timeout, something in my eye. You don't take a knee.
Yeah.
Davis was okay getting a 10-8 count. That's the weirdest thing about this all. He knew what was going to happen. He would have been cool with it. The ref chose not to do it because the ref saw that it was weird. Like, well, you're not hurt. Why are you taking it? He's like, oh, there's something in my eye. So he decided to wave it off.
Well, talk about that fight me real quick. We have a couple minutes here. The result. Do you agree with it?
Yeah. I think it was a draw. I'd be okay with leaning towards Roach as well, but I think it was a draw. Now with the knockdown, of course, Tank should lose. But people also talk about they don't realize that if they would have counted that as a knockdown, then it's a no contest. Tank still doesn't lose because there's no way of knowing what happens after that fight. Let's say Tank, it's an official knockdown. Tank might have put his foot on the gas and knocked him out. You know what I'm saying? Or Roach might have went up for broke and knock. You don't know. It's like Back to the Future. Like if you go and you talk to your moms, you don't know if she might not marry your pops, and you don't know what's going to happen if it's changed. So,
hey, in your opinion, Marko, is Tank the best fighter around that weight class? We got Shakur, we got Teofimo,
I thought so up until that point.
We got Roach now. So
I thought so. I don't know how much of that was Roach being what Roach. I mean, Roach took a hell of a punch.
yeah, he did.
So he did his thing. Tank to me looked off, but it was such a close fight that if Tank wasn't the little off he was, maybe he would have pulled it off. But I don't know now. I don't know. Shakur is such a wild card. Like I could see him.
I told you this. I told you if after what I saw Roach do, Shakur can outbox Gervonta if he can survive Gervonta's power. I mean,
I don't think he can. I don't think he can survive Gervonta's power.
That's a big if.
Who is the fighter that he fought a couple fights ago where he engaged the fighter in the first? No, it wasn't Frank Martin.
Is it about Shakur?
I'm talking about Shakur.
Oh yeah.
He engaged the fighter, but then once he felt that fighter's power, I think he was Puerto Rican or something.
De Los Santos. Yeah, De Los
He
Santos.
engaged him. Once he felt De Los Santos' power, he got on his bicycle. And he did not want to engage
He did what he had to do. He did what he had to do.
I mean, also, I'm not saying it's true, but hand injury was one of the things he said he had in that fight too.
Yeah, power can make you hurt in all types of places.
It's hard to tell, man. It's hard to tell, but they're not going to fight. Tank has been very clear with what his goals are. His goals are who gives a shit about belts. I just want to I think he's done mentally for now. Done.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
He has mentioned that, the time is coming near.
I get it. I mean, shit. I mean, boxing takes a lot. I mean, you did it, Kendall. Like, picture doing that. Like, it takes a lot out of you, man. You got to have a lot of fire in you. Like, I love what Tank said about therapy. He goes, I want to do therapy, but I'm telling you, I want to make a T-shirt that says therapy is kryptonite to boxers, because it is. You need that fire. To be a better person, you need therapy on the long run, but and I think he's at that stage. We all go through that when we hit 30. I mean, TLO, you look like you're about 25, so I don't even know if you're 30 yet.
Let's go. I'm 37, but let's go.
Don't gas him up like that. Don't gas him up like that.
But once you get that age, you start, things start. It's hard to be. You have to have a little something wrong with you, I feel like, to be a successful boxer when you're older, even.
Well, speaking of that, we got like 6 minutes here, Marko. I wanted to transition to Canelo. Canelo obviously having a fight coming up very soon. This is going to be on May 3rd. Cinco de Mayo weekend. He's going to be doing his thing versus William Skull, and he's one of those guys that I feel like the fire is definitely diminishing because David Benavidez is associated with Canelo right now in the boxing world still, right? But we saw Benavidez fight David Morrell. And that was, if Morrell had more power, I think there would have been some issues for David and losing that fight. But regardless of that, you don't think so? You don't think if David Morrell had more power, that would have been a problem for David Benavidez? No?
Kendall, is he drunk?
I can't smell any alcohol, but
No, man. I don't understand why people don't see how special David Benavidez is. Like you're entitled to your opinion, obviously, but I don't understand why people don't see that. Every time he fights, there's a criticism. Oh, he only walks forward. He has no IQ. Somebody like Caleb Plant will outbox him. Too slick. Destroys Plant. Oh, Bubu Andrade. Nah, Bubu's tall. He's awkward. He has power. He has experience. You won't walk him down. Stops him. Like, Benavidez, to me, has shown layers upon layers of what he has. He's effective walking people down, but he can do it all, man. He's really the whole package. I don't see almost any weaknesses because even when he does the earmuff where he catches shots like a catcher's mitt, he's effective at it. And I guarantee you, if he was getting hit with something like this, Kendall, when you're in there with somebody and if you feel something and you're like, you don't mind catching a couple. But if it's something where you're like, then he won't catch him.
But this I'm speaking to that. I guess what I'm trying to say is David Morrell was fighting fire with what he had. He just didn't have. I mean, Benavidez clearly punch power was superior to him. But I'm just saying, if David Morrell had that type of power like David Benavidez, that would have been an interesting fight.
A boxer named Adonis Stevenson.
Yes.
Adonis Stevenson was put into a coma and got a brain clot and almost died in his last fight against a murderous Russian puncher. Or I don't know if he was Russian. I forget where he's from. That puncher is Vazdik, who Benavidez swallowed every bomb like he's Yoshi in Super Mario with no problem. This guy put somebody almost, ended them. Benavidez has been hit by hard punchers. People don't realize that. And what was criticism against Vazdik? Well, he didn't knock him out. Right. So he wins almost every round against a natural 175-pounder. And he's taking hard shots. So
as we transition to Canelo, is Canelo still ducking David? Or is this just a business? Yeah. That's what I was getting to.
That's Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis garbage can level. You remember that, right, guys?
Yeah.
Riddick Bowe dumped. That's the same level of duck. That might have been worse, the Riddick Bowe one, because they were both young dudes in their prime. Canelo, at least, he's kind of grandfathered into like, you want to avoid some people at this point. It sucks for us as fans, but you've earned it.
Once Canelo is done with these next two fights, assuming he wins, and then he goes to Terrence Crawford, he beats Terrence Crawford, does he fight Benavidez to end his career? Never.
Of course not.
Well, for what?
He's got Turkey there too.
For what? And Benavidez now, by the way, is 175. Now I say this all the time. Benavidez would pick up a crack pipe if he has to make it to 168 to fight Canelo. He will be pooky, no problem if he has to, because he wants that fight. But the fact is, he's at 175 now. Canelo, I'll give Canelo props. He was clear. He goes, what do I want to fight this guy for? What's he give me besides 25 pounds, 30 pounds heavier on fight night than me? That was him. He was at least admitting it. He's like, I'm a 160-pounder, really. Yeah. Nah, he's not doing that.
Marko dropping bars here on the parlay, man. Marko, you're a freaking beast. Really quick, where can they find you, man? I know you're on YouTube. Your channel's growing, obviously. Of course, Instagram. You're known a lot on Instagram for your reels and your awesome takes for older fights and newer fights. Where can they find you?
It's Marko Boxing. Marko 3_ boxing on Instagram. Marko Boxing on YouTube, TikTok, all that. Yeah. I'm the only Marko Boxing, Marko with a K.
We're going to request, all right? We're going to request at some point when we get you back on to drop some bars on some of Kendall's games back in the day, all right? So, it doesn't when he
if you want it, I wish he had a scrap. I wish he had a fight that he had on the court. I would have done that in a second.
Ooh.
There's I'll do no problem.
No, I never had a scrap on the court, man. My stuff was always
Yeah, you told me, but you had some facials, right? A couple memorable ones. I could do something like that. Yeah, Shaq had me do I did a bunch of his fights and then his nastiest dunks. He wanted me to do that, so I did those. Yeah, it's fun. I like.
All right, good. Yeah, I'll find some clips, man, and send it to you.
Yeah, nah, for sure, definitely.
Right.
That'd be dope, man. That'd be dope. Hopefully we'll be out there soon, man. We're gonna be traveling a little bit this year, so if we are out on the East Coast, we will definitely hit you up, my guy.
For sure. Yeah, anytime you're around the tri-state area, let me know.
Sounds good. Marko from Marko Boxing here. We appreciate you, big dog. Thank you for being on the parlay.
All right, guys. Peace out.
Alrighty, take care. Marko from Marko Boxing, man. The guy I tried to do it, KG. I was like, it's just he's so what is it? What does John Cena say? Raponomics. What does he say, Derek? Thugonomics. Yeah, he goes into thugonomics. He starts trying to rhyme and rap and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. Always great to have Marko on the show. And, as we talked about Canelo, he has that fight coming up. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, after these two fights for Canelo, it's going to be done for him. There's no way he gives David Benavidez a chance.
Only way he fights is if, I don't think he fights again. He has nobody else to fight. He's not going to fight Benavidez. He's not going to fight Bivol
William
again.
Skull.
He's not gonna fight Beterbiev. All those guys are up at 175 pounds. He's not the same fighter as he is at 168, 160 as he is at 175. Yep. So I think he retires, man. And here's the thing: if he does beat Crawford, and if he does win his next fight, is he the greatest Mexican boxer of all time?
Nah.
No?
It's still Julio Cesar Chavez, man. It's still Julio Cesar Chavez because he fought everybody. He fought billions of times, even though he fought a lot of, I don't want to say not talented boxers in Mexico, but you know how it is when out in Mexico. I would say when they're fighting people and they're not, they fight a lot of guys in the professional career. So, but Julio fought everybody in the.
If Canelo fights Benavidez and beats Benavidez, is
now
Canelo the greatest of all time?
Now we talking.
Well, then if he wants to be the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, he's got to fight Benavidez and beat him.
Let me give him my monthly message. Canelo, por la tercera vez, estamos pidiendo, por favor. Yo sé que tú estás con Turkey, estás haciendo dinero con cada pelea, pero por favor, te estamos pidiendo, la comunidad de boxeo, por favor, dale un chance a David. Okay, él te quiere pelear, okay, él quiere pelear contigo. Él está ahí esperando que tú le des el chance. Tú eres el rey. Tú eres el rey, por favor, de un boricua a un mexicano. Dale el chance a David Benavidez, please.
Okay.
We can continue with the show, big dog. Right. And obviously David Benavidez and David Morrell, we didn't really get to talk about that fight, on the podcast. But man, as I was explaining to Marko, David gave his all.
He did.
He gave it his all in that fight, and I really truly believe that if he had a little more power, man, it would have been a more interesting fight, because it was already interesting seeing him go toe to toe.
No, it was interesting, and I also agree with you. If Morrell had more power, it would be a different fight, especially going to the body. I think one of the things that people who fight Benavidez, they avoid going to his body, and
he was going to his body.
Yeah,
he was going. Morrell was going to his body.
Morrell was going to his body, but he lacked the power to really affect him down there. And that's what you mean when you say if he had more power. Most fighters that fight Benavidez don't go to his body. Morrell did it, but he just didn't have the power to hurt him to the body. But give Benavidez credit, man. I mean, the guy can take a shot.
No, he's a
you just got a great fighter.
He's a specimen. It was the equivalent of what I told you off the air of Cotto and Canelo, right? The difference in punches, of Tito and Hopkins, right? The difference in the power when he moved up. You can see the difference. And David, like Marko said, he's a special fighter.
No, he's a special fighter. And you know what? That's actually a great comparison, especially Canelo Cotto comparison, because Canelo was throwing some good shots. He just couldn't hurt Canelo.
Cotto was throwing some good shots.
Cotto was throwing some great shots, but he just couldn't hurt Canelo with his shots. He's just bigger.
It just attested to Cotto for not falling either. He went all 12 rounds with Canelo. So
that's right.
And another fight that that happened a couple weeks ago is the Lamont Roach fight, and we spoke with Marko about and Gervonta. And man, as I was watching that fight, I was thinking about Shakur the whole time. Like, Shakur right now would probably run some miles on Gervonta, but he would outpoint Gervonta the way Gervonta was fighting in this specific fight. And Roach was doing his thing. He did everything possible to stay away from Gervonta's right hand. He did everything he could. He threw his right. He threw it with his power. So I was very impressed by Roach, and I apologized to him on social media. I already said I was totally apologetic about not wanting to see that fight. Roach proved himself.
Roach really proved himself.
How'd you feel?
And Roach proved himself, and he was the first fighter I felt that has ever made, aside from Pitbull Cruz, was one of the second fighter to make Tank back up. And
he stunned him.
He stunned him a couple times. And actually, this is a guy moving up in weight. That's what surprised me, because I'm thinking there's no way a guy that's moving up in weight is going to do this to Tank Davis. And he did. But, I still thought it was a great fight. I still thought Tank was sharp. Yeah. It's just that he ran into a fighter that, one, knew him, had sparred with him, very familiar with all of his skills. It's hard to fight a fighter like that.
Yeah.
If you've
and you know each other,
you train with, they know all your tricks.
Yeah.
Nobody actually is taking, in my opinion, that into account. This guy knew him, knows all of his combinations that he's going to throw, knows his movements, his habits, all that. And that's why I felt like Roach fared well against Tank.
He did. No, and he what he set himself up for now is more money.
Yeah,
because
more money,
he'll fight if Gervonta gives him a rematch, right? Or they'll put him in a high profile fight again, and he'll make some money.
And whoever he fights, they better be ready on their P's and Q's. Like if he fights if he fights Teofimo, if he fights Devin, if he fights Ryan Garcia, if he fights Shakur, all those guys better know shit. This dude is for real.
Yeah,
you know, and this is not a stay busy fight. This is a real fight.
Yeah,
because look at what he did to Tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great. And, you know, and that division, as we discussed earlier with, you know, that the near divisions with, you know, 140, 147, Ryan, Teofimo, Devin, Haney. I mean, besides the Canelo fight and Benavidez, a fight that we're all anticipating in boxing, I think a fight that we all probably want to see more at this point is the rematch between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. I really want to see first of all, if Ryan can stay in shape and still be sharp and fast, right, using his natural talent. But more importantly, like as I mentioned earlier, can Devin handle that in the ring? You know, can he beat those? Well,
let's see
demons?
What happens when there's drug testing. See if whatever Ryan Garcia was on, did it really have an effect during the fight? The Haney camp seems to think so. We all know that steroids are an enhancement. So let's have everybody on a playing field that's even playing field, and then let's see what happens. The Haney camp seems to think that it'll be a different outcome. I think it'll be a different outcome, you know. And also, let's not forget that Ryan Garcia came in 3 pounds overweight, didn't have to drain himself down.
He did,
you know. So I think that if everything's even, Steven, and both fighters do what they're supposed to do, weigh the same on the weigh-in day, everybody takes the drug test, I think the outcome would be different.
I think Devin better not take anything if Ryan is overweight. If Ryan's, I mean, he needs to say, I'm not fighting then.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to hear it again. You know?
We don't want to hear it
again. Yeah, if you take the fight, you took the fight. So
that's right.
If you know what happened the first time, don't step away.
Yeah.
And avoid that. So, KG Bell, awesome having you back in studio, man.
Yeah, man.
As
awesome
always,
to be back.
Can you do me a favor before we get out of here? Why are we winning? Why are the Bulls winning?
Chicago Bulls are winning because they are moving the basketball around. They are attacking the paint, and they are getting to the free throw line. And also, Kobe White has had a resurgence back to the way that he was last year at this time, when I thought that he should have been the most improved player in the league. Yeah. You know, Kobe has averaged 28, well now 20 with his last game against the Brooklyn Nets. He had 31, but he's now averaging 29 points a game over his last 6 games. Okay?
Yeah.
So Kobe White has it going, man. You know?
And I know you really can't speak towards management like that, but I'm just saying my fan question is, why are we winning? That was my fan question.
The fan question, why look, the Bulls didn't anticipate the Bulls front office didn't anticipate the Bulls to be doing this well.
Yeah.
Okay, they got a bunch of players in the trade. Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, Zach Collins.
Or Zach Collins, I say
Zach Collins from the Zach LaVine trade. They had no idea these guys were going to come in and mesh with the players that they kept from the trade deadline so well.
Yeah.
And, you know, Josh Giddey is now playing well. And, you know, I never thought that this would happen, but it's sort of been addition by subtraction. You know, you take Zach out of the lineup, now they're doing it by committee.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It looks like people are filling in roles.
Management, they kind of like, well, should we be happy or should we not be happy?
Yeah, it's weird.
You know, it's kind of a weird dynamic that we're in right now.
For the fans, too. I mean, I was like, okay, it's 4 straight.
But look, it's an entertaining style of basketball that they're playing. So, I mean, I'm actually having fun watching the game.
Yeah. The ball's moving around, right? Giddey's flourishing. We see it all. And Kobe obviously doing his thing.
So now, would you take this team going to the playoffs instead of a top 3 pick and watching this brand of basketball be played, but they're successful with it?
That's a great question. But
That's
a question I can't answer right now.
I know that's a conundrum that we're in.
It's hard to see. I mean, when I went to the UC, I saw you there on CHSN.
Right.
The first one I went to was they were down 72-29 at half, or I think that was the score at halftime.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is bad. This is and I know Vooch was playing that day actually, but the most recent game I had went to, I was like, oh, this is a different team. Vooch was out that day.
Yeah.
And so was Giddey, and I got to see the young talent move the ball on. Even though we lost to the Cavs, the Cavs are obviously the Cavs
are the best team
15
in
straight right now
so far. Yeah.
But I saw something that said, "Wow, they're okay.
Yeah,
this is kind of nice." They lost the lead. You saw that game; they lost the lead in 58 seconds.
Yep.
To a 12-0 run. I was with Derek actually in the stands. But you're right. The brand of basketball, it's looking. It's very entertaining and it's nice.
Yeah, very entertaining. Everybody's getting involved. We got shooting now. Kevin Herter has come over from Sacramento, knocking down his shots. Kobe's resurgence, man. I really like what I see. Trey Jones, who's an underrated guard, man. I mean, he's playing great. So, I'm looking forward to going to work now and seeing the games.
Yeah. So it's good stuff, man. Thanks for the insight, bro. I just had to ask you because I'm happy and I'm confused.
Happy and sad at the same time.
It's definitely interesting.
That's true.
The Parlay is sponsored by 6040 Club. Don't forget to check out Kendall Gill's Regiment. Just DM him, man. He'll tell you what's going on. Check him out. Go out there with him. He has people out there with him, so you got to check out what he does. And also, don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We're all over the platforms. Check it. The link is in the description box. You already know, boxing all the time with the Parlay. And be ready because we're going to be on the road very soon. And a watch party coming soon to a neighborhood near you, Chicago. That's right. Oh, by the way, last thing. Kendall Gill story time is going to be awesome next episode. Be ready. It's the Parlay. TLO here for the Parlay. Kendall Gill, 15-year NBA veteran in the building as always. Hey, man, if you like what you just saw, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You guys got to follow us. Season 7 is going to be insane. We are going to be here. We hope you are here for it. But, Kendall, let's go. On the court, I need my rematch. That 10-0 game was a fluke. Let's go.
Tito, as the great Floyd Mayweather once said, there are levels for a reason. There are weight classes for a reason. You're messing with a heavyweight, a professional basketball player. You're a lightweight. I don't want to take your confidence away from you, Tito. Okay? You've been doing well in your rec leagues. You've been winning championships in your rec leagues. Let's go. Stay on that level.
Let's go now.
Well, you go practice.